Hey everybody, this is James with Vermont Homesteading. Today I'm out in the garden. It's pre-season. Yeah, I'm in Vermont, so here down south, luckily you, because we're just getting into our gardening season. Soil's still about 47 degrees, and I'm standing over our Back to Eden garden right now. And we are looking at a bed here that we laid down 2 years ago, a layer of composted wood chips, and it's been for the last 2 years a tremendous space for growing squash, and this year we're going to grow delicata squash. Last year we grew butternut squash there. So I just wanted to take you guys on a little pre-season tour and show you the garden space, so let's go. So last year we put down this pile of composted wood chips you can see here. It was a whole dump truck full, and there's about 8 to 10 inches, a little less, maybe 6 to 4 in the lower areas that we used to grow blue potatoes last year, and this is going to be our bed this year for growing red and blue potatoes. And so this is a bed here that we've been sheet mulching for a few years. And let me mention, we recently raked, prepping for the season, we raked the garden just to try to define things up. And the chickens had been in here and they had been stirring stuff around and fertilizing it. They had been working very hard for the last couple of months. As soon as the snow was melted and they could get in here, maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks actually. So here we have some beds out behind our greenhouse, and we grew brassicas here last year, cabbages. Still needs to be prepped a bit. You can see the point of the fact of the matter is getting the wood chips on the ground is huge for protecting the soil from the extremes. And if you look under there, the surface extremes, there's a little worm there. This was very hard compacted soil, but just having a covering on there keeps the moisture in there. Lets things soften up and open up, they expand, the earthworms get in there and they really start to go to town. Here we'll grow some sunflowers, we'll grow some other, miscellaneous things here. But this is going to be our hemp bed this year. So we have a hemp bed here, we're going to grow a few hemp plants and grow some flowers. And so this is our greenhouse. Let's stop in here next. So here we are in the greenhouse. The spinach just barely starting to come up. We got chard over here. You can see down here the soil temperature is now 50 and at 50.5 degrees. So there's chard in that corner. And then we have spinach and radishes over here. Spinach in the back hasn't come up. You can see the radishes here. These are our 2 greenhouses. Got the door fixed up on this one. It blew off last year. You can see in here is just a small greenhouse we use as a nursery in the pre-season. And we have our cabbages, and we have kale here. Couple blueberry plants here that are slowly adjusting to the soil here, and you can see this one's doing pretty well. But just so you know, we've got non-composted wood chips we spread around the whole garden last year and the year prior, and got the whole garden covered last year. And non-composted we use for paths and for spreading around the garden. We use composted wood chips in the beds where we wanted to plant with compost, our starts. So now we move on. We got a small strawberry bed here. See, I put some straw down. We got the peas, sugar snap peas planted there. there's lettuces planted here. There'll be carrots and beets there. We have the onions in the ground over here, just barely coming up in their infancy. And then we have the main garden over here. So let's check that out next. So the herb garden is part of the main garden. We have it sort of divided in half. And we have the herb garden over on this little curved shaped portion of the garden. And it's barely defined right now because we let it grow up pretty wild. But I have hoed out some beds for planting medicinal herbs that we'd like to grow and cultivate for making our own products. And this has also been covered once with non-composted pine wood chips. So here's another angle of the garden and the herb garden. There is herbs coming up, catnip, mint, plethora of herbs Katie has planted. She's the herbalist. And here's a different angle. So let's go over to the main garden. So here we have our production area of our garden, our back to Eden garden. Like I said, in the past 2 years, we've worked diligently. We've covered this whole thing with wood chips, and we've seen immense results just from that short amount of time. It's a tremendous benefit to the soil, and the beauty is once you lay it down, you can stir it around, it can get stirred around, it can get messed up, and then you can just rake it back and define the garden again and recover the soil or recycle the chips. So here is one bed. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down here they're not raked out yet, but we have 4 more beds. So 4 more beds can go down here about 3 to 4 feet wide by 40 feet, or 25 to 30 feet. And this is our main production area of our Back to Eden garden. Last year we grew delicata squash over here, and we're going to grow less butternut squash this year and more delicata squash, so we're going to grow our butternut squash over here. And what you're looking at here is the deep litter product that we got out of our chicken coop throughout the winter's accumulation of chicken manure in the chicken coop. So I built a self-contained chicken composting, I guess it's literally a composting toilet for chickens, under the roost of the chicken coop. And the girls shat all winter, and we layered on wood shavings, and we raked it around and layered on wood shavings, and we kept doing that all winter. And so with the rain, we're going to see a lot of this material. It's been out here for about 2 or 3 weeks now. So this material, you know, it'll get neutralized, and then it'll fertilize the soil below. Because typically you don't want to put fresh manure on your garden. It's just not good for your plants. It needs to be composted. It needs to be mixed in somehow, and nature neutralizes it, and then it becomes a fertilizer instead of this harsh waste product. But yep, that's just a small bed, and that's about 15 to 20 feet long. So we have about a 1/4 acre here on our little Back to Eden garden. So I brought you guys back over to the other side of the garden, where we have a majority of composted wood chips that we've been experimenting growing potatoes and squashes in for 2 years. We grew sweet potatoes in this one the first year, doing some sheet mulching. And it's been challenging because the soil here is very compact and it's very fertile, and the native grassland ultimately benefits as much or more from the Back to Eden method than the soil you're trying to cultivate. And it's great to have good soil to grow in, but once this native grass takes off in this old pasture land, the garden gets consumed with native grasses. So anyways, I wanted to bring you over here to this composted wood chip bed so we can take a look at how amazing the wood chips are just below the surface. So let's take a look at that. Another fascinating point is notice how the wood chips get bleached from the sun and the top surface is very dry. Well, it's wonderful because weed seeds and other seeds that you don't want to become fertilized into your garden, for example, dandelions, when they blow, the seeds just kind of skip across the surface and they don't necessarily they're less likely to just plant themselves and grow a bunch of dandelions like they would in bare soil. So let's look down into this soil so I can show you what's happened to this in just a year. One winter, this soil has become astonishing. And I want to get down in there and show you what's in there, because this is the key to carbon sequestration and vital, healthy soil, is this process right before your eyes now. These wood chips are decomposing, the microorganisms are decomposing the wood chips, the carbon material, the soil staying protected from the surface extremes, there's water retention, there's life, and that's the key to this back to Eden method, is bringing life back to our soils, and then we can bring life back to the people of the world through healthy food. So have a look at that. Just take a, oh, did you see that big worm? What's great is you can dig this up. Oh, and it's so spongy right now. Can't even begin to tell you, like when I hop on this, I can just feel it. It's a sponge below me. There's a huge earthworm in there, and I wanted to show it to you, because I just saw it. Chickens love this stuff, and they stir it up really well. I guess he got away from me. So anyways, you get the picture. The soil is amazing, and look at the mycorrhizal. That's all mycorrhizal. And you know what? You can just rake this back over. The rain will kind of flatten it out. The sun will dry out the surface. But below, you'll have all that life still, and it'll kind of become uniform again. It's very fascinating to see the evolution of your back to Eden garden over just a short amount of time. So there you have it, folks. That was the tour of our Back to Eden garden pre-season and in Fletcher, Vermont. I'm James Lambert here with Vermont Homesteading. If you haven't seen our Facebook page, head over to facebook.com/VT Homesteading, and you can find us on Instagram at VT Homesteading. That's VT HOMESTEADING. And make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, goodbye.